All right, I am pumped to be joined as we are every single week by the Hall of Famer John Smoltz. John, how are we doing this week?
We're doing good. Headed to Philadelphia for a big series with Fox, the Braves, and the Phillies.
Love that. The Braves are certainly playing a lot better right now. That offense is starting to turn around as I think everybody's just been waiting for it to happen. So that should be a really good series. Speaking of hitters, John, I want to ask you about Aaron Judge. Had a conversation earlier this week on the show about Aaron Judge. Obviously, the peak that he's in right now, starting in 2022 through right now, is historically good. So the conversation I had is Aaron Judge is the best hitter since who? And went through a few names myself, but wanted to ask you that question. In your opinion, Aaron Judge is the best hitter we've seen since who?
Well, with the combination of power and average, what he's done is single-handedly closed windows for pitchers to get him out. And one of the guys that was very difficult in the right-handed batter's box was Albert Pujols. He didn't miss a pitch when he got one middle to up. You could get him out down. Similarities are the same. You can get out Judge down, but he's not expanding the zone down. So he's really shrunk the zone, and that's saying a lot for a 6'8" guy because the zone is quite bigger for his batting stance and his size.
Yeah.
Obviously, Albert was in the heyday of the Cardinals, was about the greatest right-handed hitter I'd ever seen. And then there's going to be comparisons to Barry Bonds because Barry Bonds just eliminated any mistake you could make, and he made it impossible to pitch to when he was in the prime of his career.
Absolutely. What so obviously the Albert Pujols numbers coming over, 2001. That stretch from 2001 to about 2012 is arguably the best 10 years, 10, 11 year stretch we've seen out of a hitter. What were your numbers like against Albert Pujols?
They weren't great. I didn't face him a ton, but I gave up 3 home runs to him in like 8 or 9 at bats. So he definitely crushed a couple pitches that were going for a long ways to Big Mac land in St. Louis. But listen, he just struck fear. He didn't have a weakness, and I didn't fear any right-handed hitter, but I feared Albert Pujols.
Well, there's bound to be somebody that had good numbers against you. One of my favorite stats I've ever heard is the one you told about Tony Gwynn and those numbers he had against you, Glavin, Maddox, and I believe it was Pedro.
Yeah, it's we'll never see anything like that ever again.
Nope, absolutely. So I want to stick with the Yankees. I don't know if you saw this, John, but Alex Verdugo, it recently came out that Verdugo was allergic to his batting gloves, and it was causing him issues, blisters, scabbing, itching. But it turns out he was allergic to two different chemicals in his batting gloves, one for the coloring of them and the other for the coating on the leather. Just a crazy, weird story. And since then, he's changed his batting gloves and has been hitting a lot better. So I'm not going to ask you about that in itself, but what I want to ask you about is what is one of the weirdest things that you can remember happening to a teammate?
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of superstitions. That's not a superstition. That's an unfortunate thing that you. Luckily, they got it under control. But we had a teammate that had this god awful shirt. I mean, it had holes in it. It looked like it was 20 years old, and he would wear this shirt under his jersey as he thought that was the only way he could perform. And then one day we, in the middle of the clubhouse, set it on fire and he dove on it and put it out trying to salvage the shirt. And we said, you got to get over the shirt, man. This thing's barely hanging on. You could barely put it on. And I think eventually he got the hint after we had burned it pretty good. But that's one of the craziest. We had a teammate that obviously brushed his teeth, ate licorice, had certain routines that he had to do every single way. Then you got Wade Boggs and his theories and what he did to hit. So there's all kinds of crazy things. But that shirt was one of the most, it was awful. I mean, you wouldn't give it to anybody if they needed just a little bit of covering. And we finally took care of it.
Who was the player with this shirt?
That's what I'm trying to remember. We had so many different players. The name actually is escaping me, but it was in a kangaroo court situation
Oh yeah.
where we took that shirt. Back when we had kangaroo court, one of the greatest missed opportunities for players today I don't think they have any kangaroo court anymore. But we had so much fun. We raised a lot of money for charity, and those days have since passed. I wore the robe. I had an actual judge's robe. I was the judge for a long time. We had bailiffs. We had you name it, and that particular court case was brought up against this young man, and we we took care of it.
For those that don't know, so I don't know if it still exists. I would seem to guess yes, because when I was in the minor leagues, it was a thing. So kangaroo court is essentially just the team policing itself. It's the guys in the locker room, the guys on the team keeping each other in check, not letting crazy things happen, not letting a guy wear a stinky shirt for a long time. And then, like John said, there's a judge and everybody brings it up to the judge and everybody votes on whether they think you should be fined or not. But you guys, the difference is in the big leagues, you guys are donating the money in charity, and in the minor leagues, we were doing it to throw a party at the end of the year and maybe raise a couple bucks.
Yeah, we had both of those components, charity and party, and then you get a little carried away. Sometimes you get guys that have a vendetta against another one, and they go back and forth and try to bring them up on some frivolous court cases. We had some pretty good fines that we levied, and I ran a tight court. I had some pretty heavy hitters for the bailiffs, and we ran a good court case. Let's put it that way.
I love that. Good memories for sure. John, the last thing I want to ask you about today, Shohei Ohtani doing what he's doing in the National League, Aaron Judge doing what he's doing in the American League. They're both on pace to win the MVP awards in each league, in the NL and the AL. So what I want to ask you is if Shohei Ohtani goes 50-50, 50 home runs, 50 stolen bases, and becomes the first player to ever do that, and ends up with a 1,000 OPS on the year. And if Judge hits 63 or more homers and breaks his own AL record with a 333 batting average and a 1,200 OPS, who had the better season between the two?
Well, since that would be two historic things in one year, I think we're going to see. I don't know. We may not see many 40-40s, but we're going to see more than we have
Yeah,
because the opportunity to run and hit greater than it's ever been. And I think stylistically and philosophy wise, they weren't promoting base stealing, so it was more of a rarity. Acuna started breaking the mold. Now Ohtani. What'll be interesting in your discussion is when Ohtani becomes a pitcher again. I don't think we'll see this.
I agree.
So when he's focusing only on this, it will truly be a historic offensive season minus the defense. And I would say that Aaron Judge, in what he's doing again with the New York Yankees, could single-handedly put his team in the playoffs where it's going to be the tiebreaker goes to Judge just by a fraction. But I think it's absolutely something that we'll probably never see again out of 50-50 just because there's not many guys that can do it.
There are not many guys that can hit 50 homers in the big leagues, and the fact that could steal 50 bases this year is remarkable. But I absolutely agree with you. As long as he is pitching, which next year he's going back to pitching, we're not going to see him steal 50 bases next year. We might see him back in that 20 to 30 range, but I don't think he's going to be running like he has been this year.
No, he will not.
Yep. John, always a pleasure, my friend. This one was a lot of fun. Good memories with Kangaroo Court. I'm glad you brought that up, and always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
My pleasure.
All right. See you, John. All right. Just wanted to thank John Smoltz for joining us as he does every single week. Seriously, great memories with Kangaroo Court. So a lot of things I've been thinking of what we used to do with it, and it's just a lot of things. Like if somebody doesn't, it's often not things that happen in the lines of play. If you make an error, like it is what it is. Like everybody's trying to play well, but it's always things that happen either on the field in the dugout or outside of the lines. I remember one guy was, turned around in the on deck circle because his mom was sitting behind him and he posed for a photo in the on deck circle for his mom, and we ended up finding him in kangaroo court. Great stuff that happens off the field as well. I don't know. I loved kangaroo court. I'm really glad he brought it up, and it definitely still happens in major league locker rooms for sure. I would bet on that. But thank you all for listening, as you do every single week. Having John Smoltz means so much to me and this show, and hopefully to you all as well. So make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple, Spotify, wherever. We're also on YouTube. You can watch every single thing we do there. Flippin' Bats Pod is our YouTube channel. We're on all social media as well, but it all really helps, and I really appreciate it. So until next time, my friends, have a great weekend, great Labor Day, and we will be back soon. And remember, find your bat and flip it. Peace.